From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, tech on the farm. With every year, machines are built that are able to do more and often with fewer hands. We'll show you what's new at this year's AgTech Expo. The new king of corn is crowned and he has a familiar name. Plus, help could be on the way soon for ethanol producers.
Not only do we have the extension, it goes through 2022.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning. I'm Clinton Griffiths. We're coming to you from Farm Journal's AgTech Expo in Indianapolis, which always showcases the latest developments for farmers. Now, there is some pretty awesome tech to check out, everything from innovative software to help you out when you're crunching numbers to the latest in driverless and automated equipment. But this is a pretty awesome event to be a part of. There's a lot of things being talked about today, from the market conditions and the markets and of course trade deals, but we begin with renewable fuels and the effort to boost its use. Lawmakers in the biodiesel industry claiming victory after it was announced there's a plan to extend the $1 per gallon tax break for biodiesel producers. The tax break expired at the end of 2017, but under the new plan, it would last through 2022. Now, this isn't a done deal just yet. It's being added to a spending bill slated for passage this week before Congress finishes its work for the year. The credit would be retroactive to January 1st of 2018.
The major one that I'm telling you, just as soon as yesterday, most of the people in the industry were naysayers that Congress would retroactively extend that lapsed $1 per gallon biodiesel tax incentive. Not only do we have the extension, it goes through 2022. So we finally have a few years here that the biodiesel industry can plan on absolutely having that tax incentive so the industry can grow again.
The tax package also includes extensions for tax breaks that subsidize cellulosic biofuels, alternative fuels, equipment, and short-line railroads. And there's also talk that China may be buying some U.S. ethanol soon. It could be part of the new Phase 1 trade agreement. Bloomberg reporting sources tell them Beijing plans to start buying ethanol by lifting tariffs on the fuel. The U.S. trade representative saying China would increase imports by as much as $200 billion over the next 2 years. Bloomberg also reporting China will grant more waivers on retaliatory tariffs to buyers of American soybeans and pork. You'll remember last month, China lifted its ban on imports of U.S. poultry meat, and now one company has won approval to start exporting. Reuters is reporting Tyson Foods has gotten approval from both the U.S. and China to start exporting poultry there. It's expected to start taking orders early next year. China is continuing to seek alternatives to pork after being hit hard by African swine fever. Even with the trade battle between the U.S. and China, China has remained a top customer of U.S. soybeans. But that's been at significant reduced amounts. Still, soybean leaders are looking forward to the Phase 1 trade deal with China being put in place. They also hope new relationships formed with the Chinese over the past 2 years will continue.
We're hopeful that that will continue to rise and bubble up, and we're able to continue to be the highest quality supplier of soybeans to China.
On another trade front, it appears the U.S. and Mexico have resolved an 11th hour trade dispute over the new agreement. It had threatened to disrupt a planned congressional vote on the new USMCA. It all started over the weekend when Mexico reacted angrily to implementing legislation for USMCA. Now, the legislation said up to 5 labor attachés would be sent to the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. Enforcement of USMCA labor rights in Mexico has been a key demand of U.S. House Democrats. Now, Mexico's president accused Washington of seeking to appoint labor inspectors in a clandestine fashion, but the U.S. Trade Representative said that it wasn't the case, sending a letter to Mexican officials insisting the attachés would work with Mexican authorities by providing only technical assistance. Mexico's Foreign Affairs Undersecretary announced Mexico was satisfied.
This covers the whole thing. These personnel will not be labor inspectors. And then in the next line, it says also equally clearly, those verifications will be conducted by the independent panelists and not by the inspectors. So this is not their business. Their business is cooperation, assistance, disbursement of funds, and reporting to the big interagency committee.
The U.S. House is expected to vote on the deal tomorrow, but a vote in the Senate isn't expected until early next year. There's also a plan in Congress to give U.S. producers an additional $1.5 billion in disaster aid funding. It's to help producers impacted by severe weather. It also has a provision that makes sugar growers eligible for the payments and expands the eligibility to cover quality losses for certain crops. Now, the program changes will cover disasters that occurred this year and last year. It's also expected to be voted on by Congress this week. Republican Senator John Hoeven of North Dakota saying he thinks that the USDA should be able to get the money out fairly quickly to help producers.
They should be able to get going on it right away. You remember we put the $3 billion disaster assistance. We attached that to a supplemental back in June, anticipating some of the problems were occurring at the time, but a lot more have occurred since. And so we have a lot more understanding of what the challenges are. Knowing that $3 billion is not going to cover it, that's why I worked to get the additional $1.5 billion.
Hoeven says there are provisions regarding excess moisture and some fruit provisions regarding drought in the funding plan. USDA may be done with its weekly crop progress report, but there's still plenty of crop left out in the field. Corn still stands in some northern plain states, like this video we shot recently in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Farmers telling us they are now waiting until spring to harvest.
I remember back in the late 80s, we had a year, I think it was 86 to 87, that corn stood a lot in the winter. And as long as it doesn't get warm and lodge, I think it'll be okay. But it certainly isn't good for the insides because you worry about it standing out there.
Some areas of Wisconsin even have snow to go along with it. And now temperatures are ready to dip again, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Cindy Clausen joins us now with more. Cindy.
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. We've had our fair share of cold in the north central United States, and we're going to see more of that today. Take a look at the temperatures below zero in spots this morning, and then we're going to see that cold air really start to move a little bit to the east through the Great Lakes as we head through the day today. Watch what happens as we see Chicago's highs this afternoon only getting into the 20s. And look at Rochester as they fall as we get into the afternoon, falling from the mid-20s into the mid-teens by later on this afternoon. And why not have a little fun in the cold and snow? Trooper Chad of the Kansas Highway Patrol sharing this video. Two troopers stopped a sled with some kids in between calls. It's not clear who had the most fun here, the kids or the troopers. They look like they were taking that pretty seriously, weren't they? Stay tuned. I'll have your national forecast coming up. Clinton.
The king of corn has broken the record again. David Hula of Charles City, Virginia is once again the winner of the National Corn Growers Association's Corn Yield Contest. He raked in a world record yield of 616.20 bushels per acre this year. It was an irrigated yield that now marks his fourth world record. In 2017, Hula had a farm pull in a yield of 542 bushels per acre. That won him the honor that year as well. Hula says the yields have to do with Mother Nature, irrigation, selecting the right seed, and nurturing that seed through the entire year. He says farmers must also be willing to break out of the mold and do what they've always done. And that's what AgTech is all about. We'll have more from this year's expo coming up. And later, we traveled to Louisiana to check in on sugarcane harvest. Soybeans continuing their rally, reaching their highest point since November 11th on Tuesday. Let's get more now from the CME in Chicago.
You know, it's been a great rally, no two ways about it. If you look what has happened since the last USDA and also what has happened since the China deal was announced, phase one, and we've had kind of a tentative rally, but now as that every day goes by that there isn't a hitch, you know, you've got a situation where farmers are long, managed money is short. Soybeans look like they want to go back and maybe do another 10, 15, 20 cents, but we're going to get close to old highs. So when you have these rallies, the old highs become the resistance points. So take a look at that. But certainly all in all, a great recovery rally, and 90% of it is because we've got the USMCA done and we have the phase one China deal done. So that's it for today for the grains. Take advantage of this opportunity. This is Chris Robinson. Have a great day.
We talked earlier about the potential of China buying more U.S. ethanol. Tyne Morgan joins us from our Kansas City studios with more on that.
Here now with Arlen Suderman of INTL SC Stone. Arlen, as we close out 2019, a lot of talk about if and when we will see a phase one deal with China actually signed, but it seems like now this deal is more concrete because we actually have language.
Yeah, we really do, and it's really encouraging. We won't know what the specifics of the language are until after it's signed, is what we're told, but it looks like early January, hopefully, and it's encouraging.
Yeah, so this elusive $40 billion that they say China's promising to buy, a lot of economists arguing, I just don't know how we'll get there. But could it be a different mix of agricultural goods and maybe something that we traditionally don't think about when it comes to agriculture?
Yeah, it really could be, and Robert Lighthizer, U.S. Trade Representative, indicated there will be some reclassification of some products. For example, forest products before really weren't under agriculture, but now would be. That doesn't mean that's going to make up the whole 40 or 50. We're still expected to see an increase in the traditional agricultural commodities. But it'll be a much bigger mix. Keep in mind that previously when we set the previous record, 2017 is kind of the baseline, and soybeans were the primary product we were selling them then, but there will be other products included in that mix.
Yeah, other products like possibly ethanol. I'm hearing that China this week is shopping for U.S. ethanol.
Yeah, and that's one of the encouraging things. I felt like that could be a sleeper issue in here because we've been hearing from our buyers all along that ethanol, they're interested in buying U.S. ethanol. Then it kind of went quiet the last few months, but now that talk is coming back. We want to buy U.S. ethanol. In 2016, I believe it was, they bought 200 million gallons. That'd be equivalent of about 70 million bushels of U.S. corn. Maybe they do more than that, but that would help domestic demand on top of the exports.
What about protein? Because I hear that China's kind of clearing some hurdles when it comes to importing some U.S. poultry, but could there be beef in the mix too? I mean, we know there's a huge gap that they have to fill with the lack of pork there.
Yeah, we need to see them lift the restrictions on beef. They've done so on poultry, but it's really in all of the above what they need right now.
But you've positive signs. You think that this deal could possibly be a done deal when it comes to phase one soon? Because the bar was set so high, that means the focus is going to continue on China over the next year. It's going to continue to make the headlines. Are they doing it or are they not? Arlen Suderman, INTL FC Stone, thanks for joining us. Let's take a quick break and then we'll have a check of weather right here on Ag Day.
Contact Arlen Suderman by email at arlen.suderman@intlfcstone.com.
Meteorologist Cindy Clausen joining us again. And Cindy, some wild weather in the south and east, spawning tornadoes, ice, even snow.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen even some deadly weather there, but a mix of rain and snow. Luckily, most of that is going to be out of the area today, just that trailing front in parts of southern Florida. So otherwise quiet in the southeast, and that's some good news. But we've got that cold air in the north central heading into the northeastern United States as we get through the day today. So we're going to be seeing some snow there with this low pressure and some lake response on the back side of that as that low moves off to the east. Pretty quiet once again in the south central United States, but we will have some wet weather out west as well. Let's put this into motion. You'll be able to see everything moving off to the east, so look for that snow to be moving into New England. We're going to see high pressure keeping things dry in the south central United States, some rain and upper elevation snow in the northwest, a little bit in the southwest, not as much though. Heading into the overnight hours, we're going to be seeing that low moving offshore, but we'll still see, again, some light snow, especially lake effect areas, as a secondary low starts to move into the western lakes. But we're going to see some heavier precipitation in the form of rain and higher elevation snow in the Pacific Northwest. Through the day on Thursday, really quiet across the southern part of the United States. We're just going to see a little bit of snow in the Great Lakes mainly, and then a lot more snow in those higher elevations out west. Let's take a look at the precipitation. The past 24 hours has mainly been that front in the southeast. Adding on the next 24 hours, yeah, we don't see as much left in the east, but boy, do we really pick up that rain and even some of that higher elevation snow in the northwest. That'll be the focus over the next 24 hours. Snowfall, we've seen a fair amount of it in parts of the northeast, but it's going to be all the northwest is going to be the big focus today. We will see some additional snow in the Great Lakes, but the higher amounts will, of course, be in those higher elevations out in the northwest. Temperature-wise, another chilly day for the Great Lakes heading into the northeast. We're starting to warm up a little bit, though, in parts of the west. That's good news, but overall, still kind of cool for this time of the year. Now, heading into the overnight hours, we'll see those temperatures down into the single digits for parts of the northeast and the eastern parts of the Great Lakes. We're going to see some chilly temperatures even getting down into the south as well, a little cooler than normal for this time of the year. Tomorrow we're going to see temperatures continuing to warm just a little bit in the north central United States. Now, taking a quick look at the jet stream, there's that trough that's helping that cold air come into place, but notice how that starts to flatten out. We're going to start to see some warmer air coming into play across the northeast, but we'll watch for another trough coming into the west late weekend and into the early part of next week. That's your national forecast. Let's check on the weather where you live. Clawson, Utah, mostly cloudy today with a high of 31 degrees. Hoffman Estates, Illinois, mostly sunny and cold with a high of 22. And Griffiths Corner, Virginia, sunny and cooler with a high of 46.
Love food with a little kick to it? A new study says it may actually be good for you. The study says eating chili peppers regularly can cut your risk of death from strokes or heart disease. Now, the study was done in Italy on 23,000 people for 8 years. Researchers found the risk of dying from a heart attack was a whopping 40% lower for people who ate chili peppers at least 4 times a week, and death from strokes was cut in half. A new problem in the battle against ASF in China. What some are saying that gangs are doing in the country to pig producers. Next. A new twist in the battle over African swine fever in China. Chinese farmers have a new fear: Chinese gangs. According to Bloomberg, Chinese gangs are leaving dead pigs on the side of the road to spark fear among farmers that ASF is in the region. That way, the farmers will sell their herd at a much lower cost and fast. And in some cases, gang members are even leaving ASF-infected feed in barns or using drones to spread the virus on hog operations. The criminals are smuggling pigs to parts of the country where prices are higher, ignoring transport bans in order to make money.
Sounds like, from what I've been reading, that some of the profit margins are up to $143 per pig. And so if you think about how many pigs that they could get from some of those larger farms, it's just hard to say, but that's a lot of money.
This is all happening while China is trying to get its small hog farmers to speed up production due to losses from the ASF epidemic. According to the Animal Husbandry and Veterinary Bureau at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, nearly half of China's pork supply comes from farms which produce less than 500 pigs a year. Now, China is hoping these small and medium-sized farms will have supplies or help stabilize production. Coming up, more from this year's AgTech Expo here in Indianapolis. And we'll check in on the sugarcane harvest as producers bring their crops to the mill. That's next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
The Louisiana sugarcane grinding season is nearing an end, with several mills saying they should finish up before Christmas. LSU Ag Center reporter Craig Gautreaux has more on the crop.
Sugarcane farmers have been bringing their crop to sugar mills since the last week of September. With just a few weeks left, this year's crop is being described as average. After harvesting 2 of the best crops in Louisiana history, it can seem disappointing. But many were expecting this type of year because of the difficult harvest last year.
When you harvest under really, really muddy conditions, you tear up the fields, and that doesn't bode well for the next year's crop.
This year's crop is much lighter than last year's, nearly 7 tons an acre lighter. While a few mills will grind into January, most will be finishing up early, sometime around Christmas.
We should be close to 32 tons. Again, for comparison, last year was a record tonnage crop. State average for tons of cane per acre was about 39.3 tons per acre.
Sugar recovery has been decent, but recovery numbers have suffered because of an early hard freeze that occurred in mid-November.
But whenever you lose your canopy, you see the brown cane behind me, you lose photosynthesis. And there's 2 things that are important. It takes photosynthesis to put sugar in the crop, and it takes photosynthesis to keep sugar in the stalk.
Farmers in the Midwest have had a disappointing sugar beet season, leaving up to 30% of their crop in the field. Gravois sees a shortfall in American sugar production, but it will not translate into higher prices for sugar.
Some of the shortfall from sugar beets is going to be made up with additional imports coming from other countries. Prices have been stable, have been really decent.
Sugarcane acreage has been on the increase in Louisiana, and Gravois expects the 2020 crop to be nearly 500,000 acres. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Thanks, Craig, and that's going to wrap us up from this year's Farm Journal AgTech Expo here in Indianapolis. I'm Clinton Griffiths, and for all of us here at AgDay, have a great day out in farm country.